Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaste viewers, welcome to the Short Takes by Vibhuti on Jaipur Dialogue USA. Wanted to talk about specifically, as the saying goes, that justice delayed is justice denied. And the court system, the justice system in democracies have a very important role to play. But two cases that are really bothering me in the Indian context is that recently the Supreme Court commuted the death sentence of a man called Feroz, who brutally raped and murdered a 4-year-old child, saying that every sinner has a future. Now, that's a disturbing statement. It's a very populist statement that every sinner has a future. But what about the life that was lost? Did that life had a future? What about that life's future? What do you notice here? And I will jump onto another case in which the demolition of illegal structures or the bulldozing of the illegal structures were stayed for 2 weeks. Now, the question here is very very simple, my interpretation and my humble opinion, that the people who suffer in these accounts are the innocent people. Is there justice for them, or they are just raped, brutally murdered, and then forgotten? That's the point which is very important, because in democracies, the rule of law is meant for people who submit to the rule of law, not for those who openly flout the rule of law and then claim mental instability or whatever to get rid of it. This is a very important point. A 4-year-old young child was brutally murdered and raped. Think about it from that point of view. And the justices have to say that every sinner has a future. What about the future of that innocent child? That's a question which people must ask of Supreme Court. This is important. People must ask of the Supreme Court. The question is, Parliament gets supervised. Everybody gets supervised. Who is supervising the Supreme Court and their justices and their judgments? They are supposed to interpret the law. This is not an interpretation of law. This statement says that there is more to it than just mere interpretation of law. Equally, the other item in which the illegal structures are being taken down and the government and the Supreme Court stops it. Now, my question is very simple. If the illegal structures is to be demolished, whose authority does one need? It is the executive's responsibility to ensure that if something wrong happened, you set it right. The illegality of the structure doesn't have to have a humanitarian consideration. Supreme Courts and justice system is supposed to interpret the law, not supervise or comment upon the social structure and the laws itself, because they are made by Parliament, by the members of Parliament who are representative of the people. It's their job, it's the legislature's job to ensure that they take into account various elements of the society. It's not for the justices to do that. You cannot, I think, in my opinion, as a democracy lover, as somebody who has lived in the two largest of democracies of the world, you are looking at a scenario where justices are being ridiculed. Even in the United States, for that matter, there is a very silly trend. And this trend is justice appointed by X so-and-so president. So the verdict was expected to be pro or against one or the other ideology. That's failure of the system. It is happening in the US as well. Trump appointee, Obama appointee, Bush appointee, Clinton appointee, as if they owe their success or their appointment to through the executive. I remember Mrs. Indira Gandhi used to talk about the concept of committed judiciary. Remember that? I remember that because I was in India at that time. And her interpretation was that if the justices are appointed by the government, they need not be giving opinions against the government. That's a very interesting element. You are looking at a scenario when in the world's largest democracies, justice is happening. No doubt about that. I'm not saying that the court system in India and the US are biased, but I'm saying that you cannot indulge in other than interpretation of the Constitution, interpretation of the rule of law. Emotion and sentiments are for others, not for the justice system. And that's what is important to bear in mind. And people must demand accountability of the justices as well, because they are also like you and I, people, and they are responsible for their part of the job to be done. Thank you very much for listening to us, listening to me on this short take. Satyamev Jayate. Thank you.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.